My name is Nancy Aguilera. I have been in the crypto space since 2017. I've known about it since 2015, but didn't take immediate action. And I have slowly but surely fallen in love with the crypto market and everything that it represents, what it stood for, why it got started. And of course, it has evolved exponentially over the last couple of years, and it just fascinates me. So, my intention with you today is to simplify this as much as I can, to turn it into bite sized pieces that are easily digestible, because honestly, I think that sometimes what stops a lot of people from getting involved in this economy is just lack of information or this hesitancy to take action because we don't know, right? So if I can eliminate that and give the information in a way that is easily digestible, in a way that maybe is more simplified and possibly more fun, then let's just do that. Also, I'm a very visually oriented person, so you're gonna see some visuals, and I hope that helps. On the agenda today is the evolution of money. I do think that this topic can go deep. We won't go too deep because I think that would be a topic for another day, talking about our relationship with money, why we have these paradigms with money, so on and so forth. But today we'll just scratch the surface as to how we have evolved over time. What Bitcoin is, what the blockchain is, and how it works. I feel like these are the questions that a lot of people have. They've heard the term Bitcoin, they've heard the term crypto, but they're not exactly sure what to do. So let's get into it. First things first, evolution of money. Back in the day, our ancestors used to barter. They used to use the barter system. They would trade what it is that they had for what it is that they wanted or what their families needed. So for example, if I had a hen that was laying eggs, I could go down the street or to the market and trade it with some goat's milk or maybe a baby calf or anything that I felt that I needed and that I can get with my hen's eggs. Eventually, we discovered gold, and they started to form gold bars with this gold. Now, gold bars, I don't know if you've ever held one, but they get heavy pretty fast, so this wasn't exactly convenient for us to be carrying around. Also, as you can imagine, is sometimes you don't need to pay an entire gold bar for something, so it also wasn't easily divisible, which then took us to coins made out of precious metals like gold, silver, copper. This was easier to carry. It was also more easily distributed for a fair price. But again, it adds up. So that took us to fiat or paper money. Paper money was a representation, or I should say, is a representation of what that piece of paper is worth. The paper itself isn't worth $20, 20 euros, nothing like that. It's just a representation for what it is worth, that you can use this later on to buy for something at that value. At least for the United States, we had a gold-backed dollar for a long time up until the 1970s, where the president decided to no longer back the dollar by gold. So it was then only backed by faith that it would hold its value. Sorry. Then we moved on to credit cards. Credit cards, with the adoption of the internet, allowed us to have online access to our banks. At first, a lot of people were really skeptical about credit cards. They thought it would be either fraudulent or it's not real or the banks are taking my money or what have you. But people were really skeptical about credit cards at first. Now, I don't know about you, but I use my card maybe too often. It's just so easy to swipe to, now you don't even have to swipe, you just like tap and go, right? So I use this a lot. I always have my cards on me. Actually, I don't even have my cards on me anymore. I just use my wallets. So if you're anything like me, that you've realized the evolution just from what we've seen on this side of the timeline, if you will. Then, kind of what I was talking about is we've gone to just transfers from mobile to mobile or tap and go, like I was mentioning, but it's just become so much more efficient to transfer funds or to pay for something in like seconds. So that's been really cool. And what we've seen in the crypto space is that same idea, but different. And we'll go into that in just a second. I do want to take a moment and bring this up though. If you are someone that is interested in learning more about the financial evolution and learning more about this timeline or going deep into history on how the financial sector that we are currently, or the financial system that we currently have in place was created, then I highly recommend the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. This book showed how the leaders of central banks created this meeting, and then from the meeting created what's called the Federal Reserve. Now, the Federal Reserve doesn't just affect the United States of America. It's actually a global thing. And, well, you'll learn all about it in the book. So highly, highly, highly recommend. If you don't want to read the book, then listen to the audio version of it. But feel free to enjoy that rabbit hole. Now, the topic at hand. What is Bitcoin? Okay, so cryptocurrency is a digital virtual currency that uses encryption technology for security and operates independently of central banks. This on its own is refreshing. I don't know when the last time that you thought about this was. Have you thought about like when was the last time I went a year without depending on a central bank? We depend on banks for loans, mortgages, car loans sometimes, for a lot of just like financing things, right? Also for those debit cards or credit cards that we use so often, so well. So imagine going a year without a central bank. That'd be really hard, wouldn't it? Yeah, because they've made us pretty dependent on their business. And it is exactly that. Banks are a business. Anyway, we won't get too deep into that. But the first cryptocurrency is called Bitcoin. It was invented in 2008 by an unknown person or group of people using the alias Satoshi Nakamoto. It was designed to be decentralized, so separate from what central banks are like, peer-to-peer, electronic, of course, and to be the new cash system. So really refreshing. Just to kind of give you an idea of, at least the way that I see things, is the last time we had a major difference happen, or change happen, I should say, in the financial sector was the foundation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, and it affected everyone and the way that we operate globally. So it has been over 100 years at this point where we haven't really seen much change. And well, look at the world around you. There's been so much evolution in technology. So much has changed. Why wouldn't our financial system change? So to me, it just makes sense. And it just felt, when I learned about this, it just felt refreshing. This sounds weird, but I felt like hopeful. Like, I like change. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like when change is needed, change is good. So that's what allowed me to dive a little bit deeper into the topic. Okay, so let's talk about the blockchain. At the heart of cryptocurrency is the revolution blockchain technology. It's basically a digital ledger that records transactions across a network of computers. It's secure, transparent, and resistant to modifications. So I want to talk about this last part, resistance to modifications. This has pros and cons, of course. The pro, or the reason why it was designed that way is, and this is all found on the Bitcoin white paper, which I highly recommend that you at least take a glance over at it. If it gets too overwhelming, then you can stop. But I do recommend that everyone at some point at least looks over it to see the original pitch, if you will, of what Bitcoin is supposed to be, or what Bitcoin is and what it was made for. But anyway, resistance to modification, it means that it can't be edited. Now, why would someone make something uneditable? It's because the current system that we have, well, things can be backdated, they can be changed, because it all really is just numbers on a screen if you think about it. So this avoids that. That isn't even an option anymore because you can't edit it. There's no takesies backsies, if you will. So I think that that's a pro. The con, of course, is that I think a lot of us are really used to being able to reach out to someone, to reach out to support, customer service, right? There is no customer service for the Bitcoin blockchain. So you can see that as a con, but I like to see the bright side of things. And the reason for it being designed like that is to avoid fraudulent activity. So this is a representation, a visual representation of what a block, not what it actually looks like because it's all digital, but why it's called a block and why it's called a blockchain, okay? So the anatomy of a block, if you will. First, we have the data, what wallet it's coming from, what wallet it's going to, and how much, right? The cool thing about, notice how I said what wallet it's coming from. I didn't say who it's coming from because of course there is a person behind that wallet, but the blockchain doesn't need to know your identity. It doesn't need to have your license or passport or any type of information that connects you, a person, to that wallet. So there is that sense of privacy, which is found far and few in between these days. So it has that data, and then it has a hash. A hash is just a confirmation code. The same way that you receive a booking number when you book a flight or a hotel, the same way that you receive a confirmation when you order something online, the hash is just a confirmation code. It's, okay, we've received the request for this transaction, and it's going to be processed, or it's going to be sent out to the nodes, and we'll get into that in a second. And then the third piece of information that it carries is actually the hash of the previous block. And the reason is this. So pause on that really quick. Let's talk about the Genesis block. I mentioned that Bitcoin was created in 2008, but the first block ever on the blockchain, the first transaction, if you will, was actually in 2009. Now, because it was the first, it can't have the hash of the previous block if the previous block didn't exist, right? So the Genesis block doesn't have that, but every block after that does. And because it has the hash of the previous block, that's what links one block to the next. And then remember, we can't edit or make any modifications to these blocks because let's say, hypothetically, that I did want to change this block. Well, making changes to this block would give me a new confirmation code, which would then affect all the other blocks. Does that make sense? So that's why we can't make any modifications. Once something has been printed, if you will, on the blockchain, it's there. So let's go on to how it actually works. Unlike traditional banking systems, cryptocurrency is decentralized. You're going to hear that word a lot, meaning it's not controlled by any government, company, or financial institution. Wow, refreshing. This independence gives users more control and privacy over their transactions. Let's say that this is you or me. And let's say that I want to send some money to a friend in Mexico. Well, I put in the information, the wallet that it's coming from, of course, the wallet that it's going to, and how much I want to send. So the block representing this data is created. Then it's broadcasted to nodes all over the world that are on the blockchain network. Once they verify this transaction, it's then added to the blockchain. So once approved, block is added to the blockchain permanently, and the transaction can be seen publicly. This is open source, so there is a website that you can go to see these transactions happen, but they're anonymous transactions. You can just see where it's coming, the wallet that it's coming from, and the wallets that it's going to, but it doesn't say the person's name. So you can see also how many confirmations it has to go until it is approved. So it's just cool to be able to see the process happen. You know how sometimes you order something online and you just check to see the tracking number of like, okay, is it getting closer? And you just feel better. I don't know about you, but whenever I order something from somewhere that I've never ordered anything from, and I don't get a confirmation or I don't get a tracking number, and 2 weeks go by and I'm just like, where is it? Did I get scammed? It's just really nice to have those confirmations or to be able to see that process and then after see it completed, right? So guys, that is a little bit about the evolution of money, of course, what Bitcoin is, what the blockchain is, and how it works. I like to think about it this way. Sure, the more information you have, the better. But the reason why I'm such a fan of keeping things simple is because sometimes naturally we want to know it all before we take any type of action. But that desire to want to know everything sometimes paralyzes us. It keeps us in this place of comfort. But if you think about it, there's so many things around the world that we know very little about, if anything. For example, the light switch that I turn on every single day. I know basically how it works. I know that there's a circuit involved in electricity, but I can't tell you exactly how it works. And I definitely can't build it myself, not from scratch anyway. But I use it every single day. So very similarly, do not let the desire to want to know every single detail and how it works stop you from participating in this economy, because it's here to stay. And it's probably already cost you so much. You've left so much money on the table by not participating because of this small detail of wanting to know exactly how the blockchain works or whatever the case may be. So guys, I hope that helped. Stay tuned to the next videos or go on to the next videos so that you continue evolving or continue growing this knowledge on this ever-growing sector. It's so cool. It's so refreshing. And there is a lot to learn. So now that you have the first block, we're going to build this brick by brick, right? So now that you have the first brick, we can continue to build onto it with the next few pieces of knowledge. So I hope you enjoy the way that we teach. I hope you enjoy the visuals, and I hope you stick around because, well, frankly, I think it's worth it.